calling, what happens to them? But also, we have seen a lot of wrangles between governors and their deputies. What do this kind of rulings mean for the county assembly and the role of governors? We'll be dissecting this particular issue. And finally, we'll be looking at something that happened this week, being a World Breastfeeding Week. We saw Kwale Women Rep go into the chambers with her baby. She was asked to leave a directive by the speaker, but it sparked a lot of controversy and a lot of conversation around that. Remember, we have seen this happen in progressive countries. So why are we being left behind? Was her conduct out of order? We have seen the LSK and the National Assembly trade words or exchange blows over this. So we will be seeing how do we go from here? It's a gender issue. What then happens? Is it time we have this conversation as a country? Thank you for joining us. My guest in studio, we have Oliver Kipchumba, lawyer, of course, and a political analyst as well. Thank you for joining us. Hesbon Owila, communication consultant. Thank you, and political analyst. Thank you very much for joining us. We also have Dismas Mokua, political risk analyst. Mark Bichachi is in studio doing his final preps. He will be joining us shortly as the last man on this panel. Thank you for joining us. This is Inside Politics. All right, let's begin with the first story leading us into the first conversation. 7 members of parliament who are allies of Deputy President William Ruto have said they will oppose the referendum bill proposed by the Third Way Alliance Party and another expected to be recommended by the Building Bridges Initiative led by Uasin Gishu County Women Representative Gladys Sholei and Majority Whip in the National Assembly Benjamin Washiali. The leaders claimed the current clamor for constitutional changes is driven by selfish interests. And speaking from Vihiga County, Amani National Congress leader Musalia Mudavadi asked leaders across the political divide to stop the push for the referendum and instead focus more on the fight against corruption that is bleeding the nation.
Cheptiret in Keses constituency was Nigishu County. The Deputy President Dr. William Ruto was accompanied by other leaders for a fundraiser in aid of 5 churches. The current clamor for constitutional changes could not escape the attention of leaders. Third Way Alliance Party leadership is visiting county assemblies across the country to rally support for its Punguza Mzigo bill, while the Building Bridges Initiative concluded receipt of views from the public Friday and is expected to also recommend areas of referendum to President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM party leader Raila Odinga. Leaders here poked holes at the push for the referendum.
Most people who are undertaking the BBI process is taking Kenyans for a ride, and we are not fools. The Kenyan constitution making process in 2010 was the most consultative constitution making process in the entire world. And therefore, even if you were to say that you want to relook at the constitution, then let us go back to the National Archives. There is an audio tape of the discussions by the local wananchi. Don't pretend to go across the country, meeting in 5-star hotels and telling us you want to review the constitution.
Na wale viongozi juzi wamesema kwamba yule Akuru Okot na watu yako wapunguza mzigo ati hiyo ni takataka wamelete. What Akuru Okot and his team have done is what every Kenyan has in their mind. Let us open the space, let us discuss openly, and this time we want to change the constitution for the good of Kenya, not for the good of an individual.
Nilikuwa na nia kubwa sana ya kupunguza mzigo ya Wakenya. Lakini sasa proposal moja iko hapo inanipatia shida kubwa.
Uasin Gishu County Governor said governors are plotting to introduce another referendum that will be dubbed Ugatuzi to push for more resources to devolved units.
Sisi ndio kuwaomba wabunge wacha kukaza nati, rekeza kamba na tuseme mwende mtafute pesa ingine. Ile pesa imewekwa kwa hiyo budget, toa ile ya devolved functions. Patia sisi hiyo bilioni 16 tukuje tufanyie wananchi kazi.
The Deputy President kept off the referendum debate and urged leaders to direct their energies on developing the country.
To not be bothered about this group and that initiative and the other one. What is important is the unity of our nation.
And speaking from Vokoli Girls Secondary School in Vihiga County, during the homecoming party for Vihiga County Women Representative Beatrice Adagala, leaders were also seized of the current push for the referendum.
Hii referendum kama haitakuwa na wamama ndani. Hiyo imekufa kabla haijafika kwa meza.
Isionekane kwamba sisi tunatafuta referendum kwa sababu wanasiasa ambao wamekaa hapa, mimi nikiwemo, ati sisi tunataka tugawane viti. Tukiuza referendum hivyo itakuwa na shida na mwananchi.
Mudavadi says the referendum push should not derail the war on grafts.
Wale wameiba pesa za mabawa mabilioni, hao ndio tunataka tufuatilie. Pingu ziwekwe huko. Uhuru atoe pingu, aweke huko.
Patrick Amimo, KTN News.
Amimo there with a story that brings us to a fast conversation with the Building Bridges initiative. Now, curtains have calmed down on the entire process where they have been listening and taking in proposals, written memoranda from various groups. What happens next? What kind of proposals and recommendations do we expect that they will come up with in October or earlier, as they said, the Haji-led committee? Quickly, let's just take a look at what we've seen in the past 10 months. Some of the proposals, the latest we've seen from women leaders, they embraced him. I think I'll start from that end with Dismas. What is your general reaction to the entire BBI initiative and the proposals that we've seen come out of that so far?
Well, you know, both initiatives suffer from a confidence crisis. The one for BBI, we are not sure whether these guys have actually been going to the public and taking notes and listening to what Wanjiku and Mura have been saying. And you remember the BBI is a result of the handshake, and the handshake is structured around two personalities. So for the BBI, Mura is not sure whether or not the outcome has already been predetermined, and whatever they're doing right now, they're going through a circus. I mean, to validate a position which has already been agreed upon. And, you know, the MP from Uasin Gishu says that they've been meeting in 5-star hotels, and I don't find a problem with that. Does she expect them to meet under a mango tree and collect views? So, but the big issue is the initiative, is it driven by Wanjiku's interest, Mora's interest, or is it driven by President Kenyatta's interest and Raila Odinga's interest?
So what, you think the entire process is pretty much cosmetic?
Well, you know, they've not inspired confidence. We hear that they have appeared in Kisii, they've gone to Nyeri, they've gone to Murang'a, then you see people coming with well-prepared documents in a very structured conversation. So you begin to ask yourself, is this really Wanjiku making a presentation, or is this a group which has been picked? So the BBI needs to come forward and tell us that, in fact, they've done a solid public participation. And then you have the Punguza Mizigo, whose origin we do not know, and we don't know whether our court is driving on his own motion. And now you see people coming from the woodwork saying that we support this initiative. Now, when that comes about, you ask yourself, is Kuro our court a special purpose vehicle, or does he really genuinely care for the nation? A few days ago, when we had this conversation on air, you recall that he came out with all guns blazing, and his people on social media were, you know, insulting everybody who disagreed. So you also begin to wonder, is it being driven by Wananchi, or is it being driven again as a special purpose, as a vehicle to create a fatigue ahead of the election? But the elephant in the room, Kisa, is not about reviewing our constitution. It's not even about the structure, whether it's parliamentary or presidential. Simply, it's a leadership crisis. Kenya's got a very serious leadership crisis. You recall when President Kibaki took office, with what we refer as an old constitution, he was able to run Kenya in a very solid manner. With you know, we were told this constitution has got issues. But now we've got a very solid constitution, and see what it's done. Corruption is on the rise and everything. And now, the elephant in the room that all these two initiatives are not driving is the issue of corruption that Musalia Mudavadi talks about, is the issue of economic growth. Believe you me, Mura back in Kisii doesn't care whether you want to punguza mizigo or you want to have BBI if she's going to sleep on an empty tummy tonight.
And we're getting back to that shortly on what does this have for the common Mwananchi at the end of the day. But before we get to that, I want us to now cross over to Nakuru, where the National Music Festivals has entered its 9th day. We understand a host of leaders from Baringo are gracing the